You're partway through your latest piece of art, it looks nothing like you envisioned, and you're pretty sure you must have made some sort of big mistake to wind up in this position. What do you do? If you're a beginner artist, it's really important that you do not abandon your work. You should do your best to complete every piece that you start. Easier said than done though, especially when you come up against an unexpected phenomenon, the ugly phase. All artists are familiar with this phase, even if they don't know it by name. It's the stage of the painting process where nothing looks right. Your values are all over the place, your composition might be questionable, and you start to wonder why you ever wanted to make art in the first place. The ugly phase can be a major trap for artists, both experienced and new. And if you're not aware it exists, it can lead to you junking perfectly good art and hinder your progression as an artist. But how does the ugly phase work? Most often, the ugly phase is you overestimating how much progress you've made through a piece. We love instant gratification and instant results, and this extends to our art. You might think you're close to the finished piece, when in reality, you're only about 30% of the way there. But your brain is telling you that you're almost done. Your art is bad, and you should feel bad. This then triggers insecurity and makes you want to abandon the piece because you think you've messed up. And then you either start over or quit altogether. But that is almost certainly the complete opposite of what you need to do. Let's consider the worst possible outcome for the moment, which, at the end of the day, is that you've created a piece of art you don't like. There are still several reasons why it was all worthwhile. Number one, the process of painting typically has a few fairly predictable stages, and by sticking out the early stages, even if you don't like the result, you get to practice the finer detail skills that you wouldn't get to otherwise. Two, you learn more deeply from your mistakes. If you're correct that you've made a mistake and the error shows through in the final painting, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how that mistake can affect the overall composition of a piece and have a better idea of how to avoid or correct it in the future. 3, or C, the process of creating art really requires the formation of good habits. You need to show up and you need to do the work. If you establish a pattern early on of abandoning your work because you think it's gone badly, that fear will linger and it will affect your future work. Becoming comfortable with uncertainty is vital if you want to improve your art. Art requires experimentation, and it's only an experiment if you don't know what will happen. Without experimentation and uncertainty, your art will stagnate and you won't grow as an artist. And finally, 4, or D, or that little IV in the brackets. Well done! You made something. At the end of the day, does it really matter if it's a bad piece of art? The heat death of the universe is inevitable. Ultimately, all will be reduced to nothingness, but for now, you're here and you've brought something new into the world, and that's pretty cool regardless of what it is. Of course, the above arguments are all based around logic, and if there is one thing that we all know, it's that logic does basically nothing in the face of crippling fear and anxiety. So what action can we take when we think our art is turning bad? Try painting for 15 minutes more. 15 minutes isn't a huge amount of time to see how much further you can progress with the piece, and it will give you a finite amount of time to sit with the sensation of feeling uncomfortable with your work. Being able to stick with it through the discomfort is a skill in and of itself, and it's great to find chances to practice it. If the 15 minutes is up and you don't feel better about the work, you can either try to set yourself another 15 minutes, or you can move on to approach 2. Get up, take a break, and try changing your perspective, quite literally. If I've been staring at a piece for way too long, it becomes hard to see it as the object or scene I'm trying to create. It becomes a collection of pigments and brushstrokes. I have trouble trying to envision how a naive viewer would see the piece. But if I walk away for 5 minutes, make some tea, stare at some slowly dying plants, or perhaps the washing I'm neglecting, and then come back, as I'm coming back to my desk, often the piece catches my eye in a new way. I'm looking at it from an angle rather than straight on, and it seems to make my brain interpret it as a different image from earlier. My brain then does its best to work out what it's supposed to be an image of, and almost always deduces the correct subject matter. Alternatively, you can also try photographing your work with your phone. Looking at it on the screen in a new context can trick your brain into once again seeing the forest instead of just the trees. This might give you the boost of confidence you need to push through the tricky stages. Finally, If you truly believe a piece to be entirely beyond salvation, then congratulations, you've been presented with a rare opportunity. It's time to get weird. If you think a piece is ruined, then this is the perfect time for experimentation because you have nothing to lose. If you're a watercolor artist, that paper is painted, that ship has sailed. You're not getting it back. You might discover a new technique you like, and you can use that in future pieces. Or the experimentation itself might help take the piece in an entirely new direction. If nothing else, you're sure to learn from the experience. Persistence is an art form in and of itself, and developing the resilience to ignore that mean little voice in the back of our heads is vital for all artists, no matter where we are in our journey. Of course, if you find yourself persisting, but still just not getting the results you want, you might want to check out my video on the importance of quality materials. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the comments on how you deal with the ugly phase. And finally, let me leave you with one of our most persistent expressions. Like and subscribe.